Carlo Ancelotti is the most successful manager in the history of the Champions League, having won the trophy 5 times as a manager, to go along with twice as a player. But now I am turning him back into a 33-year-old at the start of his managerial career with his first club Reggiana, and seeing if he can replicate the success that he has done in real life. And trust me, you will never believe who he wins the Champions League with. Join me now on another fun career replay here on Mr. Apples FM, and sit back and enjoy the ride. Here we go, Carlo Ancelotti at his first managerial post of Reggiana in Italy. They are in Serie B at the moment in the game. And funnily enough, I had to actually take out another Italian legend in Alessandro Nesta to replace him with Carlo Ancelotti. As you can see, his stats are nowhere near what they are in the game. I've given him his full potential ability, and let's see if he can become the greatest manager in the world, pretty much like he is in real life. So after the first season, Reggiana have made it into the playoffs of Serie B, and let's check to see if he's actually taken them to promotion, and he's done so through the playoffs. And in true Italian style, a 0-0 draw in the second leg of the playoff final, but they have beaten Brescia to go through to the Serie A in his first season. What a great start for Carlo Ancelotti. So his first season in Serie A is a relatively successful one. They have finished in roundabouts mid-table, 13th place, 4 points clear of the drop, although their points total is only 39. So a lot of the teams down there not getting a high points total, so they have managed to survive, which is really good for his first season in Serie A. So a couple of seasons in, and we see a few of his stats getting better, but let's see if he's managed to survive for another season, or even been able to push Reggiana up the table. And he's got them relegated. 4 points less than last year, only 35 points for their points total, and Reggiana are going down. But it looks like our man Carlo Ancelotti is surviving for now. Hopefully he can continue on with Reggiana and get them promoted again, or maybe a bigger club will come calling. Well, he's done it again. Reggiana have been promoted into Serie A through the playoffs once again. A 3-2 win against Palermo in the second leg has seen them go through. 72 points for the season. Really nice effort by Don Carlo. Let's make sure he is actually still there. And of course he is. He's been there for almost 4 years now. He is still the manager. And let's see if he can do a better job of surviving in Serie A than just 2 seasons like he did last time. Well, our man Don Carlo is still at Reggiana at the end of the 5th season, and his stats are improving, motivating, and people management are going well up. They're almost maxed out now. What has he done with Reggiana? 15th in Italian Serie A. That is really, really good. So not quite as high as what he did in his first season the first time around, and a terrible points total of only 33, but they've managed to survive, probably because the 5 teams below them are terrible. 6th season in, and it is another disaster from Don Carlo and his team. They have only managed to achieve 27 points for the season, and they are getting relegated. But the thing is, for the time being, Don Carlo is still their manager. So they're clearly going to stick with this guy and make sure he gets them promoted back up again. I think he needs to get away from Reggiana now. I think a bigger club needs to come calling for him. But at this point in time, we don't have any interest that we can see for Carlo Ancelotti. So he's just going to have to get Reggiana back into Serie A. Okay, 7 seasons in, and Reggiana have finished 5th in Serie B, so that means they go into the playoffs. How have they done? And they don't get promoted because the other team finished higher than them in the standings. So they don't even go to penalties or even extra time by the look of this. Well, that's really unfortunate, but he probably should have done better than finishing in 5th place and only getting 68 points. Hopefully next season we get a better result for Carlo Ancelotti and his team, and he is still the manager of Reggiana. No one is coming calling just at this point in time, but his stats are looking really good in a couple of key areas at the moment. Okay, 8 seasons are down, and he is still the manager of Reggiana. Let's see whether Reggiana are back into Serie A. They finished 15th in Serie B. They finished just outside the relegation playoffs places. How has he still got a job with them? Okay, we really need Carlo to move now. He clearly doesn't have the team, and the board are just going to keep him on. Regardless, we need someone to come in for him. Well, I guess the faith in Carlo Ancelotti was repaid for Reggiana, because he got them promoted once again, and not even through the playoffs. They got automatically promoted in 2nd place with a really good point total of 77. So they are going up into Serie A next season. He has now completed 9 seasons for the club. I'd really like to see him start moving on, because he is getting really good at this point in time. Let's have a look at his stats. Yeah, this is a guy that shouldn't be managing a team yo-yoing between Serie A and Serie B. This guy should be pushing towards a Champions League level club. So we've gone 10 seasons now and he has finally made the move. Carlo Ancelotti has gone to France and he is managing Marseille. He actually made this move in October. Marseille looked like they have headhunted him and he has just departed his role in Reggiana because he agreed terms with Marseille. So it's really good to see him move to another club, except for the next line above, which says he just got relegated from Liga. Are you kidding me? They finished dead last in Liga. He was there for a long time, so Carlo, this is on you, mate. Have a look at that. They went down to last place in the third round of the season and were last for the rest of the season. So his first game in charge would have been this 3-0 loss to Paris Saint-Germain. So he's had all that time to get them back up and he hasn't done it. That is not a great result from Carlo Ancelotti. But in the 11th season, Marseille did stick by their man. So Carlo Ancelotti is still the manager at the end of that 11th season. And again, the faith has been repaid because he has finished first in Liga with Marseille, 1 point ahead of Brest, a couple of points ahead of the playoff places. So that's a really good effort for him. They are going up with a really low points total though of 60, 12 draws, 6 losses for the year. But the main thing is Marseille are going up. Okay, we've had another change. He is now the manager at Guingamp, and let's see when this occurred. So he got sacked as manager of Marseille on the 25th of November because of the poor league position. We'll check that in a minute. And then got hired by Guingamp less than a month later. Where are Guingamp at the moment? They are in Liga, so this is actually a really good hire for him. He's gone up the table simply by moving clubs. Marseille finished rock bottom in last place with a lower point total than last time, but Guingamp finished in mid-table. So I've gone a couple of seasons ahead and Ancelotti is now the manager at Brentford. So he actually agreed terms with them before the start of the season. And in that one full season that he had with Guingamp, he finished in 9th place. But it doesn't look good for him because without him, they ended up finishing in the Champions League spots in 3rd place. Meanwhile, Brentford have finished a respectable 9th place in the Premier League, but they are outside of the European places. So it looks like he's gone a little bit backwards with this move, but hopefully it's something that he can then take forwards later on. So our man Carlo Ancelotti is still the manager of Brentford and it looks like he's got a few more yellow stats in his attributes. Let's see how Brentford have done for this season. And they've finished in 7th place. So they've gone into the Europa League. So now we are starting to see him progress forward. This is really good. Let's see if he can get anything in European competition for next season. Well, we'll never know how well he can do with Brentford in Europe because he resigned before the start of the next season to take on the Italy job. So prior to his appointment at Italy, they actually lost the World Cup quarter-final in South Africa to Argentina on penalties. So that looks like that has got the previous manager sacked. Now he is taking over for the next tournament run. Meanwhile, without Don Carlo there, Brentford actually made the Europa League final and lost it 1-0 to Man City. And a couple of seasons ahead to see our man still the manager of Italy. Let's see how they did in the Euros. And unfortunately, they have lost 3-2 in the semi-final to Denmark in extra time. A 97th minute goal for the Danes has seen Italy knocked out and not progressing through to the final. However, at this stage, they are not terminating the contract of Carlo Ancelotti, so let's see how long he will actually stay as the manager of Italy. So our man Carlo Ancelotti stay with Italy until the next World Cup, where unfortunately they suffer the same fate as they did in the Euros, this time with a 2-1 loss to Argentina in the semi-finals of the World Cup, and then unfortunately could not get the 3rd place in the World Cup, with one of their players missing a penalty in the 75th minute, which would have put them ahead 2-1, and then Uruguay score 5 minutes later for them to win the game and finish in 3rd place for the World Cup. Carlo Ancelotti has actually left his post at Italy after that, and that is because he is now the manager of Burnley. That is amazing. So he resigned as manager of Italy at the end of that World Cup and then took on the job at Burnley, looks like probably just at the start of the season, and has taken them to a respectable 11th place in the league. Again, it's not European football, but it's a great result for a Burnley football club. Okay, now we are talking. Carlo Ancelotti has moved on to PSG, and PSG has won Ligue 1 because of course they have. but he's only won it on goal difference, with Rennes in second place, 7 goals behind them on the goal difference, but that doesn't matter. He has won the league. This is his first major trophy in this career replay. But he hasn't won the Champions League trophy though, because that has gone to Tottenham, who have beaten Barcelona 1-0 in the final. And they lost in the semi-final 2-1 overall after a 2-0 loss in Barcelona, sees them knocked out at the final hurdle before the last game of the season. So in fact, it was only a couple of weeks after we last saw Carlo Ancelotti that he took on the role as PSG manager. So that was in June of last year. So he's had the whole season, the whole transfer window as well, to build up a squad to be able to win the league. And if we progress the season ahead, he is unemployed. He does not have a job at this point in time because he got sacked by PSG at the end of the season. And PSG were ruthless with him as he finished 1 point behind Rennes to come in second place, still made it into the Champions League, but because it's not a win, they have got rid of him straight away. And it is Tottenham who have gone back-to-back in the Champions League, beating Toulouse in the final. And Tottenham actually knocked PSG out in the quarter-final stages, 6-2 overall. So that would have been a 4-0 win for Tottenham in London. Just quietly, Tottenham have actually won the previous 3 Champions League titles, and before that, Brighton and Newcastle were the winners of the title, with Tottenham having a spell of 3 wins several years ago as well. Okay, this looks like a fun move for Carlo Ancelotti. He is now the manager of Porto. So Porto have won the league for Carlo Ancelotti in his first season in Portugal, ahead of Olhanense, Benfica in third, Montalegre are in fourth, and they were a 4th division club at the start of FM24. That is an incredible rise from them, with Sporting in 5th place. Let's check to see if he's done anything in the Champions League, and no, because it's Tottenham Hotspur winning again. They have won 4 in a row. This is ridiculous. So Porto were actually knocked out in the playoff round, 3-1 overall. Let's have a look to see how they did in the league stage. And they finished in 17th place, so 4 wins, 1 draw and 3 losses for Porto. At least he's got a title in Portugal behind him. Let's see if he can do a little bit better in the Champions League going into the future. Okay, things have just gone really weird. Carlo Ancelotti is unemployed, but it's not because he's been sacked by Porto. He actually agreed terms with Man City, and then he's been sacked by Man City at the end of the season. I mean, he did win a Community Shield. Surely that's got to count for something. Again, it is another ruthless sacking, with Man City finishing in 3rd place, 1 point behind the winners Man United. But that is not good enough for the Man City board. They have gotten rid of him, and now it is time for him to find a new job. Look away, Real Madrid fans, because that new job is Barcelona. What a strange journey he has been on. He is now managing Barcelona instead of Real Madrid, of course. Let's see how he's actually done this season. And he's won the La Liga title, 2 points ahead of Villarreal. Real Madrid is actually in 4th place, 13 points back. Let's see if they've won anything else for this season. And they have. They've won the Spanish Cup, a 2-1 win over Real Madrid. So that is a really good result, getting a domestic double. But he hasn't won the Champions League because that has gone to Brighton, who have beaten Man United 2-1 in the final. So as we saw before, this is not Brighton's first Champions League trophy. This is their 2nd in this save. Barcelona couldn't even make it past the round of 16 as they got knocked out by Milan 5-3 overall. Well, he's not going to get any more trophies for Barcelona because he has gone back to be the manager of Brentford. Because when you need to go up from Barcelona, clearly Brentford is the next level for you. And to be fair, he's done a great job in the league. Brentford have finished 4th and they will qualify for Champions League for next season, although they were 10 points off the title. But maybe he knew exactly what he was doing, because Carlo Ancelotti has won the Champions League with Brentford in season 2049. What an incredible achievement this has been. A 1-0 win over Chelsea in the final at the Johan Cruyff Arena in Amsterdam. And Carlo Ancelotti has finally got his first Champions League in his career replay. And again, Ancelotti will not be taking Brentford any further than that in the Premier League because he's now the manager of Brighton. We have seen Brighton have become quite a successful team here, so this might be a good move, to be fair. So less than a month after he won the Champions League with Brentford, he signed for Brighton as their manager and then went on to win the Club World Championship just under a month later. But in the league, he finished in 4th place, 3 points more than what he got with Brentford last year, but in the same position. Tottenham again have won the league this season, so they have become a fantastic team. And you couldn't write it, but 2 of Carlo Ancelotti's previous teams have played the Champions League final, and it is PSG beating Man City this season. Carlo Ancelotti's Brighton team were knocked out by Man City on penalties in the quarter-final. But to be fair, there was a relatively good chance he was going to be coming up against one of his former sides, because there were 2 other of his former teams in there. But maybe now, can he actually stay with Brighton for a few years and build up a squad to be able to get back into the Champions League final or even win a Premier League? That's what we want right now. So good news, I guess, is that he's actually stayed for a 2nd season at Brighton instead of constantly moving like he has done in the previous years. And what a fantastic decision that was, because Brighton have won the Premier League with Don Carlo in charge. A pretty low points total of 77 to win the league, but it doesn't matter. They have done the job. And the scriptwriters were out for the final day of the season as Brighton actually lost 2-1 to Crystal Palace away from home. Crystal Palace are a decent side. They made Europa League football. But Man City have blown their chance by drawing with Man United on the final day, which means they finish 1 point behind Brighton for the Premier League trophy. If Man United couldn't win the trophy, that's probably the next best thing for them to ruin Man City's day. And he can't do anything in the Champions League as Liverpool lift the trophy, beating Tottenham 2-0 on the final day of the season. And in fact, Liverpool actually knocked Brighton out in the penultimate round, which was actually an all-English semi-final. Ancelotti is still there for a 3rd season. And what did Brighton manage to do? Again, they have won the Premier League and they have finished equal on points with Tottenham Hotspur, but 2 goals ahead only. And again, the scriptwriters have been out for the final day of the Premier League, with Brighton losing to Leeds 3-2 with an 88th minute goal from Leeds to win them the game at Ellen Road. But then Tottenham at home have lost to Arsenal, and it is Arsenal who have cost Tottenham the chance of winning the Premier League. But that doesn't matter for us, because our man Don Carlo has won another Premier League trophy, and Brighton faced Man United at the wonderful Friends Arena in Sweden, and they won the Champions League 2-0 in the final for his 2nd Champions League trophy overall. First off, he won it with Brentford, and now he has won it with Brighton as well. Carlo Ancelotti is still hanging around at Brighton in the end of the 2054 season, but Brighton did not win the Premier League this season. And again, they have finished equal on points with Man City, but they were 5 goals behind this time. So all these Premier League races have been incredibly tight. Man City did their best to try and lose the title with a 2-1 loss at home to Wolves, who finished in 15th place for the season, but Brighton couldn't win by 8 goals to actually win the Premier League. And he won't get a Champions League trophy this season as Man United beat former Carlo Ancelotti side PSG in the final 3-2, and it was that side, Man United, who knocked Brighton out in the quarterfinals 4-1. And Carlo Ancelotti is still the manager at Brighton at the end of the 2055 season, but Brighton have been going backwards as they have now finished in 5th place for this season, 19 points off Spurs, who won the title. But at least for him, they have made it into the Champions League for another season, so for a club like Brighton continuously getting to the Champions League, that is an incredible effort. He did make it to another Champions League final, but they have lost on penalties to Spurs, meaning they were not able to capture another Champions League trophy in Lisbon. So his managerial career is starting to wind down a little bit. He is still the Brighton manager. Again, they have finished in 5th place, which of course in the Premier League is good enough to see you get into the Champions League for the next season. They were 9 points off title winners Spurs, so they have actually had a better season than last year, but still not good enough to be able to get them another title. And again, it was Spurs who have won the Champions League with a 3-2 win over Chelsea, and that team Spurs knocked Brighton out of the Champions League in the quarterfinal stages with a 6-2 aggregate win overall. But there is some good news for Carlo Ancelotti and his Brighton team as they beat Arsenal 2-0 in the final of the Carabao Cup for our man Don Carlo to lift another trophy in his incredible career. As an aside, it's good to see Liam Gallagher getting the highest average rating for the Carabao Cup for this season. And here we go, Carlo Ancelotti at the end of the 2057 season one is still with Brighton, and they have finished in second place this time, again behind Spurs by 7 points. Spurs have won so many trophies in this save. But could he do anything in the Champions League? Again, no, because it's Spurs who have won the Champions League. Real Madrid were the team that actually knocked out Brighton in the semi-final this time, as Spurs beat Liverpool to get themselves into the final. So just quickly, Spurs have won 12 Champions Leagues and 8 further Premier League titles in this save. How on earth have they become the best club in the world? And the end of Ancelotti's career has taken a really strange turn. He's now unemployed, he is going to be retiring, and he took over Tottenham. So Tottenham have agreed to hire him as their manager, and just after Christmas time, they gave him the wonderful present of his termination papers. Tottenham ended up finishing third place in the league, and if we have a look to see where they were when Carlo Ancelotti left the club, for probably the best team in the world, they were in 8th place. But then, only a few weeks beforehand, they were in 2nd. And amazingly, Tottenham have gone on to win the Champions League once again. So in the season where Carlo Ancelotti started as their manager and got sacked halfway through, they ended up finishing in 3rd place and went on to win another Champions League. So that is another period of 4 in a row for Tottenham, where they previously won 4 in a row earlier on, and a 3 in a row as well. So to wrap up the career of our man Carlo Ancelotti, he has won 5 league trophies, 1 with PSG, 1 with Porto, 1 with Barcelona, and 2 with Brighton. And of course, he had those 2 fantastic Champions League wins, first off with Brentford, and then with Brighton as well. If you like watching this kind of stuff, please make sure you hit that subscribe button, as I'm putting out content every single week. And of course, hit that like button and leave a comment down below if there's any other people that you would like me to replay the careers of. Up on the screen now will be the career replay of Mo Salah, where I put him back to his boyhood club in Egypt and then see how far he could get in his career. But for now, the most important thing is for you guys to make sure you have yourselves a wonderful day.